Today we're going to look at some capacitors on this episode. I'm also going to go over how to test a capacitor and what kind of equipment you would need to do that the most efficiently. So stay tuned. So I have before us a bunch of capacitors. Oval capacitors, round capacitors, start capacitors, dual capacity capacitors. This one here is your typical 7.5 capacitor. This is what you would find on your blower motors. Once you start getting into these bigger ones here, these are what you would typically find more so on your air conditioning units. So let's open up capacitor boxes and we'll just kind of look at them. So as you can see, this is your standard type of capacitor that you would find on your typical furnace motor. These capacitors are typically most found in your PSC motors. Your PSC are your permanent split capacitor motors. Those motors are the most common in at least your typical furnaces from the early 2000s, maybe even the teens. They are very efficient motors. Once we're going more into the ECM motors, you're not going to find your capacitors on those. I mean, the capacitors are going to be more so built into the modules, which, you know, has its benefits and also its drawbacks. But right now, I'm just speaking about your typical PSC motor. So how would you be able to tell if your capacitor is not up to its manufacturer specs? Well, you would use a meter to help you determine that. You have your typical standard meter here. As you can see on the settings, there is no MFD reading. So if I was to try to test the typical beep setting, I'm not going to read anything. It's just going to be OL. As you can see right here, nothing. That doesn't really help me to read anything, and it doesn't matter how many settings I go to here. I'm not going to be able to read anything. I'm especially not going to be able to read the microfarad reading that I need to know to whether this cap is good or not, which is why the HVAC technicians use meters that can read microfarad. As you can see right here, I got my selector on the microfarad. Oops, right there. And as you can see, I got it right down here. It goes MF. What that allows me to do is it allows me to test the microfarad on the capacitor itself. So I can now test to see if this capacitor is good to go, and as you can see, it reads 7.5. And as you can see right here, it says 7.5. That's a good capacitor. So let's take a look at some of our other capacitors here. This one here is a 35.5. I already have a 35.5 here, so you can see the specs is right there. 35, it's round, it's the same thing. So on my dual capacitor, we should just probably go over it real quickly. As you can see, you got three terminals here. Okay. If you look closer with them, what you're going to have is three different words. So you're going to have fan, you're going to have what's called Herm, then you're going to have your C here, which is your comet. This terminal here connects to the fan motor of your HVAC system. The 5 in the 35 spec here rating refers to the capacity value used by the fan motor, which in this case is the 5 microfarad. This is the capacity rating. This side of the terminal, this is what helps your fan blower motor get that extra boost, the 5 microfarad. So if we go to the Herm, or the hermeneutic compressor, this terminal is for the connection to the compressor in your HVAC system. So this is what you would connect to your compressor. This is the 35 reading part of your capacitor. So again, the fan is the 5 microfarad, and then your Herm is the 35 rating. Your C terminal here serve as your shared point of the dual capacitor, where the neutral wire connects and completes the circuit for both the compressor and the fan motor. So this is where you put your neutral wire on. So how we would test this is somewhat similar to how we would test your normal blower motor start capacitor here, but this is a dual one, so you're going to test it slightly different. You can't just randomly select your terminals here, otherwise you're going to get different readings. I can test from the fan to their Herm, and I can get my 5 reading. I'll be able to get my 5 reading, so I can go from the fan to the Herm, and on my meter I'm gonna get 4.3. That's okay still, because I'm allowed a plus 3 percentage, so 4.3 is fine. It's that's actually a pretty good reading. Again, I'll show you 4.3. Again, remember I got that 3% allowance, so that's what reads my 5%. But if I want to get my 35% reading, I got to go to my Herm to my common, and that's where I'm going to get my 35% reading, as you can see. So this is a good capacitor. Again, you're not going to be able to tell unless you have a meter that can read microfarad. I'm going to put in the description cheap meters that can do that, far more cheaper than this one here. So we can do that again for an oval. This is basically the same type of capacitor for this, but it's oval. So I am going to just show you what that looks like. I'm going to have to open this up. As you can see, it's an oval capacitor of what this is. In fact, it's got the same rating as this one here too. It's 35. So, they basically do the same thing, but it's really meant for mounting reasons, mounting purposes. Is sometimes it might be easier to mount an oval one versus the round one. That's really up to you. As you can see, it's got the same names, right? You got fan, common, and Herm. So we would again test that the same way too, right? If we go to fan and Herm, we're going to get our plus 5 reading, and on this capacitor here, I am reading 4.42. Again, I got that plus. On this one here, I got plus 5, so that's a good reading. Now, if I want to read my 35% reading here, sorry, I'm just gonna. If I want to read my 35% reading here, I'm just gonna take my lead off of my fan, and I'm gonna bring it over to the common. And that's where I'm going to get my 35 reading. So this is a good capacitor. This way here is of testing your capacitor is very helpful for technicians, because we get to see if there's a low charge on one. I'm going to show you in the next clip here of what a low run blower motor capacitor looks like. Make sure you discharge the capacitor here. The reason why you want to discharge the capacitor is because they can still hold their charge. Capacitors are designed to store electrical energy even after the power supply to the furnace is turned off. The capacitor can still hold a significant charge. This storage energy can pose a serious risk of electrical shock to anyone who touches the capacitor terminals or connections to the capacitor. It also, discharging the capacitor protects the equipment from damage. A sudden release of storage energy can harm sensitive electronics. You can have a power surge with it, so it's important to discharge the capacitor. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this off. I'm going to So I have my meter here. I've got it selected to microfarad, and I'm going to test to see what that reading is going to be. I want that reading to be at 7.5. So let's take a look at what our reading is going to be. 6.21. That means this capacitor is losing its charge. If this capacitor loses any more, this blower motor is going to be in some problems. The blower motor will be fine, but it just won't come on. Or it'll come on, but it won't be able to go to its max speed. Something like this we typically charge for about $40. So these ones here too can range around $40, $50, $55, $60. Depends really on which type of capacitor you get. These ones here, the Rotem ones, they're the common ones. They're, I guess you can call it, the most cheaper options. I've had people get irritated because it says it's made in China. They think that I'm sending them some sort of, I don't know, cheap Chinese product. But the problem here is that I don't make the products. I get these products right from HVAC dealers. I go into it in a blog about the whole process of where HVAC parts are made. I'm going to link that blog in the description because it tells you why products are made in China and why you shouldn't be totally too concerned about that. So I'm going to link that blog in the description. If you're Canadian, again, thank you for your support. I'm going to provide some links to our capacitors section, and if you can support us by purchasing from a Canadian online store, that would be really grateful. If you're an American watching this video, I'm going to provide some American affiliate links, and you're still supporting us if you use those links. So again, thank you, and if you can like this video, subscribe to our channel and help us grow our online presence, that would be most appreciative. Thank you.